Help us reach 1,000 subscribers on our new channel Lesbian Stories. We hope you enjoy the story. As I stepped off the plane in Newark, the crisp autumn air hit my face, a stark contrast to the stifling cabin atmosphere. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the exhaustion that clung to me like a second skin. Being Charlotte Reeves, the rising star everyone kept talking about, wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Especially not after the mess of a breakup I'd just been through. I plastered on my best smile as I made my way through the airport, sunglasses firmly in place to hide the dark circles under my eyes. My fiery red hair, usually my pride and joy, felt limp and lifeless. I couldn't wait to get to the hotel and crash. But there was no rest for the wicked. Or the famous, apparently. My manager, Tom, was already firing off instructions about the fan meet-and-greet event scheduled for tomorrow. I nodded along, only half listening. These events were always the same: screaming fans, endless selfies, and the occasional creep trying to cop a feel. Little did I know that this particular event would change my life forever. The next morning, I found myself in a swanky hotel ballroom, surrounded by a sea of eager faces. I smiled, waved, and tried to look excited as I answered the same questions I'd heard 1,000 times before. That's when I saw her. She stood out from the crowd like a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. Golden blonde hair cascaded down her shoulders, framing a face that could have launched 1,000 ships. But it was her eyes that caught my attention, deep, soulful brown eyes that seemed to look right through me. I learned later that her name was Eden, and she'd won a contest to photograph me at the event. As she approached me, camera in hand, I felt an unexpected jolt of electricity. Our eyes met, and for a moment, the world around us faded away. "Hi," she said, her voice soft and melodious. "I'm Eden. It's an honor to meet you, Charlotte." I stumbled over my words, suddenly feeling like a tongue-tied teenager. "The honor's all mine," I managed to say, cringing inwardly at how cliché I sounded. As Eden began to take photos, I found myself hyper-aware of her every movement, the way she bit her lip in concentration, the gentle curve of her neck as she tilted her head to get the perfect angle. I'd posed for countless photographers before, but never had I felt so seen. We fell into an easy rhythm, exchanging playful banter between shots. I found myself making silly faces and striking ridiculous poses just to hear her laugh. It was a sound I wanted to bottle up and keep forever. At one point, Eden reached out to adjust a strand of my hair that had fallen out of place. Her fingers brushed against my cheek, and I swear I felt a spark. Our eyes met again, and this time, there was no mistaking the heat that flashed between us. As the session came to an end, I found myself reluctant to let Eden go. "You know," I said, trying to sound casual, "I'd love to see how these photos turn out. Maybe we could grab a coffee sometime, and you could show me?" Eden's face lit up, and my heart did a little somersault. "I'd like that," she replied, her smile brighter than any camera flash. As I watched her walk away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. For the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of excitement, a spark of possibility. Little did I know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything I thought I knew about myself, my career, and love itself. Eden had walked into my life like a whirlwind, and I had a feeling nothing would ever be the same again. The next few days passed in a blur of interviews and promotional events, but my mind kept drifting back to Eden. Her gentle smile, her infectious laugh, the way her eyes seemed to sparkle when she talked about photography, it all haunted me in the best possible way. I finally worked up the courage to text her, suggesting we meet for coffee. My heart raced as I waited for her response, feeling like a lovesick teenager all over again. When my phone buzzed with her enthusiastic reply, I couldn't help but grin. We met at a quaint little cafe tucked away from the bustling streets of Newark. As soon as I saw Eden, my breath caught in my throat. She was even more beautiful than I remembered, dressed in a simple sundress that hugged her curves in all the right places. "Hi," she said, a shy smile playing on her lips. "I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me." "Never," I replied, surprising myself with my honesty. We settled into a cozy booth, and soon conversation flowed as easily as the coffee. Eden told me about her dreams of becoming a professional photographer, her eyes lighting up as she described her passion for capturing moments of raw emotion. I found myself opening up to her in a way I hadn't with anyone in years. We talked about our childhoods, our hopes, our fears. With each word, each laugh, each shared glance, I felt myself falling deeper under her spell. As our coffee date stretched into hours, I realized I didn't want it to end. "There's a charity gala tonight," I said, trying to sound casual. "Would you like to be my plus one?" Eden's eyes widened. "Are you sure? I don't exactly have a red carpet wardrobe." I laughed, already imagining how stunning she'd look. "Trust me, you'll outshine everyone there." And she did. When I picked her up that evening, Eden took my breath away. She wore a sleek black dress that hugged her curves, her golden hair cascading down her back in soft waves. As we entered the gala, all eyes were on us, or more accurately, on her. The night was a whirlwind of champagne, small talk, and stolen glances. But everything faded into the background when the music started, and Eden pulled me onto the dance floor. As we swayed to the music, our bodies moving in perfect synchronization, the world around us seemed to disappear. Eden's hand on my waist sent shivers down my spine, and I could feel the heat radiating between us. Our eyes locked, and in that moment I wanted nothing more than to kiss her. But before I could act on my desires, a familiar voice cut through the haze. "Charlotte, darling, there you are." I turned to see Tom, my manager, making his way towards us. Eden stepped back, breaking the spell, and I felt a pang of loss at the sudden distance between us. Tom pulled me aside, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Charlotte, we need to talk. Who's your friend?" I introduced Eden, trying to ignore the way Tom's eyes narrowed as he looked her up and down. After exchanging a few pleasantries, he steered me away, his grip on my arm just a little too tight. "Charlotte," he hissed once we were out of earshot, "what do you think you're doing? Getting too close to a fan is dangerous territory. Remember what happened last time?" I bristled at his words, memories of a past scandal flashing through my mind. "Eden's different," I insisted. "She's not just some fan." Tom's expression softened slightly. "I know you're lonely, Charlotte, but you need to be careful. Your career is at a critical point right now. We can't afford any distractions." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. As Tom walked away, I turned back to find Eden, only to see her engaged in conversation with a group of admirers. My heart sank as I watched her laugh at something one of them said, her eyes sparkling in that way that made my knees weak. For the rest of the night, I tried to keep my distance, Tom's warning echoing in my ears. But my eyes kept finding their way back to Eden, drawn to her like a moth to a flame. Every time our gazes met across the crowded room, I felt a jolt of electricity that left me breathless. As the gala wound down, Eden found her way back to my side. "I should probably head home," she said, a hint of reluctance in her voice. "Let me drive you," I offered, not ready for our night to end. The car ride was filled with a charged silence, the air between us thick with unspoken desires. When we pulled up to Eden's apartment, neither of us moved to get out. "Charlotte," Eden said softly, turning to face me, "what is this, between us?" I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my chest. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I want to find out." Eden's eyes searched mine, and for a moment, I thought she might kiss me. Instead, she smiled softly and squeezed my hand. "Good night, Charlotte," she whispered, before slipping out of the car and into the night. As I watched her go, I knew I was in trouble. Despite Tom's warnings, despite the potential risks to my career, I couldn't deny the pull I felt towards Eden. She had awakened something in me. Something I thought I'd buried long ago. I drove back to my hotel, my mind racing with thoughts of soft lips, gentle touches, and brown eyes that seemed to see right into my soul. Whatever this was with Eden, I knew one thing for certain: I wasn't ready to let it go. The days that followed were a delicious torment. Eden and I texted constantly, our messages ranging from playful banter to deep soul-bearing conversations that left me feeling both exhilarated and vulnerable. With each exchange, I felt myself falling deeper, my resolve to keep things professional crumbling like sand in an hourglass. Finally, unable to resist any longer, I invited Eden to my hotel suite. I told myself it was to discuss a potential collaboration, her photographing me for an upcoming magazine spread. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. When Eden arrived, looking effortlessly beautiful in a simple white blouse and jeans. My heart skipped a beat. We settled on the plush sofa, a bottle of wine between us, and began to talk. As the evening wore on and the wine flowed freely, our conversation drifted from work to more personal topics. "So, Charlotte Reeves," Eden said, a mischievous glint in her eye, "what's it really like being a star? All glitz and glamour?" I laughed, shaking my head. "Hardly. It's more like constant jet lag, bad hotel coffee, and never knowing who to trust." I paused, surprised by my own candor. "But moments like this, they make it all worth it." Eden's gaze softened, and she reached out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind my ear. Her touch sent shivers down my spine. "I'm glad I get to see this side of you," she murmured. As the night deepened, we moved to the balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below us. The air was heavy with unspoken tension, crackling with possibility. Eden stood close to me, our arms barely touching, and I could smell the intoxicating scent of her perfume. "It's beautiful up here," Eden said softly, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Yes, it is," I replied, but I wasn't looking at the view. I was looking at her. Maybe it was the wine or the moonlight, or the way Eden's lips curved into a soft smile. Whatever it was, in that moment, I couldn't resist any longer. I leaned in, my heart pounding, and pressed my lips to hers. For a split second, Eden froze, and I feared I'd made a terrible mistake. But then she melted into the kiss, her lips soft and warm against mine. It was electric, passionate, everything I'd imagined and more. My hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer, as her fingers tangled in my hair. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, Eden's eyes were wide with wonder. "Charlotte," she whispered, her voice husky, "I've wanted to do that since the moment I met you." Her words ignited a fire within me. I captured her lips again, this time with more urgency. We stumbled back into the suite, hands roaming, breaths mingling. As we fell onto the bed, I marveled at the softness of Eden's skin, the curve of her hips, the way she arched into my touch. Our clothes fell away, piece by piece, until there was nothing left between us but skin and desire. I trailed kisses down Eden's neck, reveling in the soft sighs that escaped her lips. Her hands explored my body with a reverence that made me feel more beautiful than any camera ever had. As we made love, I lost myself in Eden. The taste of her lips, the feel of her body against mine, the sound of her gasps and moans. It was intoxicating. We moved together in perfect harmony, our bodies speaking a language that words could never capture. In the aftermath, we lay tangled in the sheets, our limbs intertwined, hearts still racing. Eden traced lazy patterns on my skin, sending shivers down my spine. That was incredible, I finished for her, pulling her closer. We spent the rest of the night exploring each other's bodies, talking, laughing, and making love again and again. As the first light of dawn crept through the windows, I watched Eden sleep, her face peaceful and beautiful in repose. I felt a surge of emotion so strong it almost overwhelmed me. But with the morning light came reality. As Eden stirred awake, I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross her face. "Charlotte," she said softly, "what happens now?" It was a question I didn't have an answer to. My world of red carpets and paparazzi seemed a million miles away from Eden's life. Could we bridge that gap? And even if we could, was I ready to face the consequences of coming out as a queer woman in an industry that still clung to outdated norms? "I don't know," I admitted, pulling her close. "But I know I want you in my life, Eden. Whatever that means, whatever we have to face. I want to face it with you." Eden's eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she leaned in to kiss me softly. "I want that too," she whispered against my lips. As we lay there, basking in the afterglow of our night together and the promise of what might come, I felt both terrified and exhilarated. I knew that stepping out of the hotel room would mean facing a world that might not be ready for us. But looking into Eden's eyes, feeling the warmth of her body against mine, I knew it was a risk I was willing to take. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever obstacles we might face, I knew one thing for certain: my life would never be the same again. And as scary as that was, it was also thrilling. Because for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. Eden had awakened something in me, something I thought I'd lost long ago, As we reluctantly got dressed, stealing kisses and lingering touches, I silently vowed to fight for this, for us. The road ahead might be rocky, but with Eden by my side, I felt ready to take on the world. The blissful bubble Eden and I had created didn't last long. Reality came crashing down around us with the force of a tsunami, leaving devastation in its wake. It started with a single photo. Someone at the charity gala had snapped a picture of Eden and me dancing, our bodies pressed close, eyes locked in a way that left little doubt about the nature of our relationship. Within hours, it was splashed across every tabloid and gossip site, accompanied by lurid headlines speculating about my sexuality. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Tom was frantic, demanding I issue a statement denying everything. My publicist was working overtime to control the damage. But all I could think about was Eden. "Are you okay?" I asked her when we finally managed to talk. Her voice was small, uncertain. I don't know," she admitted. "This is all so overwhelming. I imagined." I felt a pang of guilt. Of course she hadn't imagined this. How could she have? This was my world, not hers, and I dragged her into it without a second thought. "I'm so sorry, Eden," I said, my voice cracking. "I never meant for this to happen." There was a long pause before she replied. "I know, Charlotte, it's not your fault, we'll figure this out." But figuring it out proved to be harder than either of us anticipated. The backlash from conservative fans was swift and brutal. My social media accounts were flooded with hateful comments, some calling for boycotts of my music and movies. Tom was beside himself. "Do you have any idea what this could do to your career?" he ranted during one particularly heated phone call. "We've worked too hard to let it all fall apart over some fling." His words stung, but not as much as the realization that he might be right. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd sacrificed for, was suddenly hanging by a thread. And for what? A relationship that was barely a week old? But every time I started to doubt, I'd remember the way Eden looked at me, the way she made me feel. It wasn't just a fling, it was real, and it was worth fighting for. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, my ex-boyfriend decided to add fuel to the fire. Jake, a fellow actor I'd dated for a year before our messy breakup, called me out of the blue. "Hey Char," he drawled, his voice dripping with false concern. "Quite a mess you've gotten yourself into, huh?" I gritted my teeth. "What do you want, Jake?" He chuckled, the sound sending chills down my spine. "Oh, nothing much. Just thought you might want to know that I've been getting some interesting offers from the press. Seems they're very interested in hearing about our relationship. And why it really ended." My blood ran cold. Jake knew things about me, private things I'd shared in moments of vulnerability. If he went public with that information... "What are you saying?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm saying that maybe it's time for you to reconsider your current situation. Come back to me, Char. We can spin this whole thing as a publicity stunt, set the record straight. What do you say?" I felt sick to my stomach. The thought of going back to Jake, of denying who I was and what I felt for Eden, was unbearable. But the threat of exposure loomed large. "I need time to think," I said finally, hanging up before he could respond. As the days passed, the pressure continued to mount. Eden and I tried to stolen moments together, but even those were tainted by the stress of our situation. I could see the toll it was taking on her, the way her eyes had lost some of their sparkle, the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. Maybe this was a mistake," she said one night, her voice barely above a whisper. We were huddled in my hotel room, the curtains drawn against the world outside. "I don't know if I'm cut out for this, Charlotte. The constant scrutiny, the hate, it's too much." Her words felt like a knife to my heart. I wanted to argue, to tell her that we could weather this storm together. But looking at her, seeing the pain and uncertainty in her eyes, I couldn't bring myself to be selfish. "I understand," I said softly, pulling her close. "Whatever you decide, I'll respect your choice." We spent that night holding each other, neither of us speaking, both acutely aware that it might be our last night together. As dawn broke, Eden slipped out of the room with a tearful goodbye, leaving me feeling more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings, interviews, and damage control. I went through the motions, smiling for the cameras and giving vague, non-committal answers about my personal life. But inside, I was dying. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, my agent called with news that should have been exciting. I'd been offered the lead role in a big-budget action movie, the kind of project that could catapult my career to new heights. The catch? It would mean moving to Los Angeles for at least a year. As I listened to him rattle off the details, all I could think about was Eden. Moving to Louisiana would mean leaving her behind, potentially for good. But staying meant continuing to subject her to the chaos of my life, a life she'd made clear she wasn't sure she wanted. I found myself at a crossroads, torn between my career and my heart. The decision I made would shape not just my future, but Eden's as well. As I stared out the window at the Newark skyline, I realized that no matter what I chose, nothing would ever be the same again. The weight of the decision loomed over me like a storm cloud, dark and ominous. I paced my hotel room, the script for the blockbuster film lying untouched on the desk. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, a role that could cement my place in Hollywood's list. But at what cost? I hadn't spoken to Eden in days, the silence between us a chasm that seemed to grow wider with each passing hour. Her absence left an ache in my chest that no amount of career success could fill. I found myself reaching for my phone countless times, composing messages I never sent, my finger hovering over her name in my contacts. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, I called her. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times before I heard her soft, "Hello?" "Eden," I breathed, her name a prayer on my lips. "Can we talk? In person?" There was a pause, long enough to make my heart race, before she agreed. We arranged to meet at a quiet park, away from prying eyes and cameras. When I saw her, my breath caught in my throat. Even with dark circles under her eyes and a weariness in her posture, she was still the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. We sat on a secluded bench, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows around us. "I've been offered a role," I said, breaking the silence. "A big one. It could change everything for me." Eden nodded, her eyes not quite meeting mine. "That's great, Charlotte. You deserve it." "It's in Los Angeles," I continued, watching her carefully. "I'd have to move there for at least a year." I saw the flicker of pain in her eyes, quickly masked by a forced smile. "Oh, well, that's an amazing opportunity." "Eden," I said, reaching for her hand. She let me take it, her fingers cold in mine. "I don't know what to do. This role, it's everything I've ever worked for. But you're everything I never knew I wanted." She looked at me then, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Charlotte, I can't ask you to give up your dream for me. We barely know each other, and I'm just a fan you met a few weeks ago." Her words stung, but I understood the fear behind them. "You're so much more than that," I insisted. "Eden, these past weeks have been the most real, the most alive I've felt in years. You make me want to be better, to be truer to myself." "But at what cost?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Your career, your reputation. I've seen how much you've struggled because of me." I shook my head, squeezing her hand. "No, not because of you. Because of a world that isn't ready to accept love in all its forms. But I'm ready to fight that world, Eden. If you'll fight with me." She looked away, conflict clear on her face. "I don't know if I'm strong enough, Charlotte. This world of yours, it's so big, so overwhelming. I'm just a small-town girl with a camera and a dream." "You're so much more than that," I said fiercely. "You're the woman who saw me, really saw me, when I was surrounded by people who only saw the star. You're the one who made me laugh, who made me feel safe to be myself." Eden's eyes met mine, a glimmer of hope shining through the fear. "But what about your career, this role?" I took a deep breath, making a decision that would change the course of my life. "I'll take the role," I said, watching her face fall before I continued. "And I want you to come with me." Her eyes widened in surprise. "What?" "Come to Louisiana with me," I said, the idea taking root and growing with every word. "You said you wanted to be a professional photographer. Louisiana is full of opportunities. We could face this new chapter together." "Charlotte, I don't know what to say," Eden stammered, clearly overwhelmed. "Say yes," I urged, bringing her hand to my lips and kissing it softly. I know it's crazy, I know it's fast, but Eden, I think I'm falling in love with you. And I don't want to do this without you. Tears spilled down Eden's cheeks, and for a moment, I feared I'd pushed too far. But then she smiled, a real smile that lit up her entire face. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll come with you. Relief and joy flooded through me. I pulled her close, kissing her with all the passion and love I felt. As we broke apart, both breathless and giddy, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we'd face them together. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparations. Eden gave notice at her job, I negotiated the terms of my contract, and we both packed up our lives. There were moments of doubt, of fear, but every time I looked at Eden, I knew we were making the right choice. The night before our flight to Louisiana, we lay tangled together in my hotel room, the city lights twinkling beyond the window. Eden traced patterns on my skin, her touch both soothing and electrifying. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice soft in the darkness. I pulled her closer, kissing her forehead. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied. As we made love that night, it felt like a new beginning. Every touch, every kiss was a promise of the future we were building together. In the afterglow, as Eden drifted off to sleep in my arms, I marveled at how much my life had changed in such a short time. I thought about the challenges that lay ahead, the scrutiny we'd face, the battles we'd have to fight. But looking at Eden, peaceful in sleep, I knew that together, we could face anything. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, I felt a sense of hope and excitement I hadn't experienced in years. We were stepping into the unknown, but we were doing it together, and that, I realized, was the greatest adventure of all. The Los Angeles sun beat down on us as Eden and I stepped off the plane, hand in hand. The air was thick with promise and possibility, tinged with the faint scent of jasmine and sea salt. As we made our way through LAX, I couldn't help but steal glances at Eden, marveling at how right it felt to have her by my side. Our first few weeks in Louisiana were a whirlwind of activity. I dove headfirst into preparations for my role, spending long hours in meetings, costume fittings, and grueling training sessions. Eden, true to her passion, began exploring the city's vibrant photography scene, her talent quickly catching the eye of several local galleries. Despite our busy schedules, we made sure to carve out time for each other. Late-night walks on the beach, stolen kisses between takes on set, lazy Sunday mornings tangled in sheets, each moment we shared only deepened our connection. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. The paparazzi were relentless, following us everywhere, hungry for a glimpse of this scandalous couple. Online trolls continued their vicious attacks, their words sometimes cutting deep enough to make us question everything. But through it all, Eden was my rock. Her quiet strength and unwavering support gave me the courage to face the world head-on. And slowly but surely, we began to see a shift. For every hateful comment, there were 10 messages of support. Fan art depicting us together flooded social media. LGBTQ youth reached out, thanking us for giving them hope and representation. As filming progressed, I found myself falling more in love with my craft than ever before. The role challenged me in ways I never imagined, pushing me to dig deep and deliver the performance of a lifetime. And every night, I'd come home to Eden, her proud smile and loving embrace reminding me of what truly mattered. One evening, about 6 months into our Louisiana adventure, I returned home to find Eden surrounded by a sea of photographs. Her eyes were bright with excitement as she showed me her latest project, a series capturing the raw, unfiltered moments of our life together. "I want to show the world the real us," she explained, her voice filled with passion. "Not the glossy magazine version, but the messy, beautiful truth of our love." As I looked through the photos, images of us laughing, arguing, comforting each other, simply existing together, I felt overwhelmed with emotion. This was us, laid bare for the world to see. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, echoing her words from that night before we left Newark. Eden's response was to kiss me, soft and sure. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," she whispered against my lips. The exhibition of Eden's photographs opened 3 months later, coinciding with the premiere of my film. The response was overwhelming. Critics praised Eden's raw talent and unflinching honesty, while the public seemed captivated by the intimate glimpse into our life together. As we stood hand in hand on the red carpet at my film's premiere, I felt a sense of pride and joy unlike anything I'd ever experienced. Eden looked stunning in a sleek black gown, her golden hair cascading down her back. The cameras flashed around us, but for once, I didn't feel the need to pose or pretend. This was us, real and true. Just before we were about to enter the theater, I felt a sudden surge of emotion. Everything we'd been through, everything we'd conquered together had led to this moment. I turned to Eden, my heart pounding. "Eden," I said loud enough for those nearby to hear, "I love you. You've changed my life in ways I never thought possible. You've made me braver, stronger, more myself than I've ever been." I could see the tears welling up in her eyes as I dropped to one knee, pulling out the ring I'd been carrying for weeks. Gasps and excited murmurs rippled through the crowd, but I only had eyes for Eden. "Will you marry me?" I asked, my voice trembling with emotion. For a heart-stopping moment, Eden just stared at me, her eyes wide with surprise. Then, a radiant smile broke across her face. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." As I slipped the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a passionate kiss, the crowd around us erupted into cheers and applause. Cameras flashed furiously, capturing the moment for posterity. But in that instant, it was just Eden and me, lost in our own world of love and promise. The months that followed were a beautiful blur. The film was a massive success, earning critical acclaim and shattering box office records. Eden's photography career soared, with galleries around the world clamoring to showcase her work. And through it all, our love only grew stronger. Our wedding day dawned bright and clear, a perfect Los Angeles morning. As I stood at the altar, watching Eden walk towards me, radiant in flowing white, I felt a sense of peace and rightness settle over me. This was where I was meant to be, who I was meant to be with. We exchanged vows surrounded by our closest friends and family, our words a testament to the journey we'd undertaken together. As we sealed our union with a kiss, I knew that this was just the beginning of our greatest adventure yet. Later that night, as Eden and I swayed together on the dance floor, lost in our own private world, I reflected on the incredible path that had led us here. From that first meeting in Newark to this moment of pure joy, every step had been worth it. "I love you, Mrs. Reeves," I whispered in Eden's ear, savoring the way her new name felt on my tongue. She pulled back slightly, her eyes shining with happiness. "And I love you, my star," she replied, before pulling me in for another kiss. As we danced under the starlit sky, surrounded by the love and support of those closest to us, I knew that whatever challenges the future might hold, we'd face them together. Our love story, unconventional as it might be, was proof that sometimes the greatest risks lead to the most beautiful rewards. And as the night wore on, filled with laughter, love, and promise, I couldn't help but feel that this moment, this love,